The board is set and the pieces are moving. Let's jump into this week's episode of Star Wars Resistance.
How you get so big that you hold of this kind?
Hello and welcome into my review of this week's episode of Resistance, the Doza Dilemma. This will be a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, I highly recommend you pause this video, watch it for yourself, and then come back later. But with that, let's just get into the episode. One of the very first things we see in this episode is Tam and Torra and Kaz all hanging out at the cantina, and eventually Cynara joins them. I really liked seeing this group of characters interacting and hanging out, showing that they really are friends, and really seeing how the characters are embracing Cynara and making her part of the group, and being so welcoming to her. I think where this show felt a little bit different than Rebels is that even though there was a team, they didn't feel like a team, right? Like with Rebels, pretty early on, you get used to Hera and Kanan and Ezra and Sabine and Zeb, and they just feel like this big unit, all of whom exist to drive Chopper crazy, and you kind of go through the show with them. And that was in stark contrast to the more anthology feel that we got from Star Wars The Clone Wars. But with Resistance, we were getting that kind of team unit, but they just didn't have the team unison yet. And we're really starting to see how the characters come together, and that we get more and more of that every week. And I'm really happy to kind of see the team kind of actually join arms and be buds. I mean, even at one point, Tam kind of has to skedaddle out of the episode because she no longer takes part in the story. Instead of complaining or getting work done, she does that by hanging out with Niku. And it was really nice just to see the way that they're basically shifting characters around by moving characters to hang out with other characters. Beyond that, the episode itself was great. There was great action, pacing was wonderful, at least on first viewing, didn't see any, glaring logic problems. Kaz was continuing to grow as a character. Torra, even though she was kind of the MacGuffin of this episode, was always putting up a fight even when she was in trouble. Everything about this episode just worked. To that point, a character arc that I'm most excited about right now is Cynara's. See, when we first met her, and she was brought on to the Colossus, and we got these inklings that she was going to be this pirate spy. People wondered if she wasn't going to have a redemption arc. Was she going to befriend them? Was it going to be like that stereotypical, like, oh, you joined us and now we're friends thing? And I feel like a lot of people were kind of like groaning at how obvious that felt. And what I'm saying is that the series is doing that. Granted, that very obvious thing, but it's doing it in a very real way. It wasn't 3 episodes later and she's turning her back on the pirates. Like, she's spent a significant amount of time with these characters, interacting with these characters, doing things with these characters, showing up in some of the spin-off shorts that came out during the show's break. They're really taking time to build her character up. And I think that is a real credit. And they're also creating a reason for her to leave the pirates, not just to be friends with the Fireball team. We're seeing that her boss, Kragen, is hiding things from her, and even when he uses her, he's not giving her his full trust. He's putting her down, calling her soft. She's feeling rejected by the very people that she was supposed to be a part of. I kind of wonder, even when Kaz and Poe found her and she was kind of left behind on that station with the Swallow, Kowakian monkey lizard, was she kind of abandoned by the other pirates that were there? Maybe she kind of had been feeling this abandonment issue from that amount of time. Add that into her saying that Kragen was working with the First Order and the First Order turned on Kragen. She sees the fallibility of her boss's wisdom, that he's kind of digging himself into a hole. All of this stuff is going on. So what it's doing is it's not just doing the bonds of friendship, which it is doing very well, but it's also causing her to have distrust with the people that she came from. And I'm really excited to see where her character goes, because it's clear that they're spending a lot of time with her. She is not just an ancillary side character like Jace, who kind of pops up here and there. She's meant to be one of the main characters. She has an action figure in the action figure Torra line. Like, she's 100% a character they're investing in, and it shows, and I love it. Torra also handled herself very well in this episode. I said earlier that even though she was the captured damsel, she was still fighting against the pirates that took her. She wasn't just kind of lying down and letting herself be taken. Even when she gets back to her dad, she's not a quivering ball of fear. Like, she's clearly one tough character. And yes, she's still a kid. She's really excited about all the different things she does. She always comes off as so innocent. She, walks in on her father talking to the First Order, and she kind of reacts like a kid would react in shock, not with like the savviness of somebody who's seen things before. Even though she has that naivety, she also is intelligent, and I think she's a character that can really become something once she kind of gets out from underneath the shelter that her father has placed over her. Even though Tam had very little screen time in this episode, I really liked what I've been seeing out of her. When the show first started, she was very distrustful. She felt burned by Yeager bringing in Kaz, and he was always getting to do all the things that Tam wanted to do. And rightfully so, she had every reason to feel the way she was feeling, but it made her very closed off, and it made her seem so distrusting. And now we see her opening up. She's opening up to Cynara, she's bonding with Niku, she's even hanging out with Torra. And I think that's something that even where it was such a small amount of screen time, I really like how we see character development with her and how she's growing to trust just in that amount of time. And as I said with Kaz, he continues to kind of grow up with each episode. I didn't really doubt that that was going to happen, though I'm surprised it is happening as fast as it is. Not in a he has superpowers of learning and he's growing in a Gary Stu sort of way, but rather that he's growing in the way we'd want him to grow. Even in this episode, he's able to figure out that Cynara is likely a pirate sympathizer, if not a pirate spy. And even though he's had this big crush on her that even other characters in the show have been making fun of him for, he's able to put that aside in light of the fact that she's very potentially an enemy. I really appreciated that fact. I was getting a little bit worried about his puppy love for Cynara, that he was going to be kind of annoying about it, but you know, everyone gets puppy love every now and again. That's fine, but the fact that he can kind of put that away and realize what's really important, I think is a credit to his character. The other dynamic between him and Cynara that I really like right now is that she suspects that he's at least a resistance sympathizer, if not a resistance spy. He knows that she's likely a pirate sympathizer. What they don't know is that the other one has figured that out, so we now have kind of two spies that are aware of each other but are not really sure how much the other one knows, and I'm really excited to see how that dynamic turns out, especially because they have this bond of friendship that's been forming. And on top of all that character growth, we took some amazing steps forward in terms of the story. The First Order's plan is in full swing now. So they've been trying to strong-arm Doza into letting a First Order contingent stay on the Colossus, and they finally pushed the pirates forward with their kind of first wave of attack, which is to take Torra. Now, of course, the pirates thought that they would take Torra and be rewarded by the First Order, but they were rewarded by being betrayed by the First Order. So instead, the First Order took Torra back from the pirates, trying to kill some of the pirates in their wake so that they could look good for Doza, which is the obvious thing that the First Order would be doing. It's just obvious to everyone but the pirates. What I want to know now is, what is Kragen gonna do? Is he going to turn on the First Order and maybe join up with the Colossus and, you know, kind of switch sides himself? Is he gonna still turn on the First Order and try to take the Colossus for himself while fighting off both sides? Are we gonna have like a 3-faction war going on here? Or is he gonna go crawling back to the First Order, kind of begging to have them actually take him in, as opposed to almost dying? And I think there's a couple different ways it could go, and I'm really excited to see what happens in the next couple episodes. As a final note, for those of you that had sharp ears or sharp eyes during the credit scene, I wanted to point out a couple of voice actors. First of all, the nice swanky lady pirate that shows up to take Torra, I knew that voice immediately, and that was the wonderful Jennifer Hale, who you've probably heard before as Bastila Shan, or Bastila's descendant Sateli Shan, in the Knights of the Old Republic video games and Old Republic MMO. She's also voiced like 9 million other characters you've probably played before in a video game. And the other voice is that of Dave Filoni himself, voicing the mysterious Keldor Ace. Filoni, of course, is a massive fan of Plo Koon, and he's not been shy about that at all, so I think it was fun that he finally got to kind of lend his voice to, if not Plo Koon, at least another Keldor. But those are my thoughts on this week's episode. I'm really excited to see the next episode. I cannot wait, as everything is gearing up and we're finally getting into all this First Order business. Let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Let us know on Twitter. Follow us at Port Haven Forums. Check us out on Instagram. Join our Discord. All of those are great places where you can interact and chat with us, and visit port-haven.com for even more content. And until next time, keep it real and fly casual.
Cooking candy